Hello again, I'm Manisha Tank and you join me on the Global Common Channel here at the Singapore FinTech Festival 2020. It is the day of the Economic Summit. We have been able to benefit back to back from some fantastic conversations. But right now we are going to focus on how the financial services sector will respond in 2021 to everything that's been happening this year. It has, of course, been a very big year. And so far as financial services go, we have a panel that's going to be discussing some of the biggest topics affecting this sector. What are some of the biggest challenges of the year for financial services, and also why banking the unbanked or underbanked should be the industry's focus for 2021. It's part 4 in our series of conversations on how the financial services sector will respond in 2021, and we have a great panel lined up for you. We have David Marcus, head of Facebook Financial, Roman Regelman, who is the Senior Executive Vice President and Chief Executive Officer of Asset Servicing and Head of Digital at BNY Mellon, and Shan, who is the Managing Director and Head of Institutional Banking at DBS Bank. And the panel will be moderated by our very own Rebecca Martin from the Monetary Authority of Singapore. Over to you.
Thank you, Manisha. It's great to finally be in the studio. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to those of you in Singapore who've joined us throughout the whole day. Welcome to the very best session of the day. Over the next 40 minutes, we're going to take you on a journey from tech to finance to infrastructure and financial inclusion, and finish up with our leaders' views on 2021. So let me start with Shan here in the studio. Thank you for coming in today.
My pleasure.
As we get towards the end of the year, picture yourself lying on Sentosa Beach and reflecting on the year that's been. What would you say has been the most surprising thing about the financial services sector in Asia in response to the pandemic?
I would say it was just a massive speed and acceleration of digital adoption by everybody, whether it's the most analog consumer or the most analog micro SME to the most traditional corporates. Everybody pivoted because they had to. When trade supply chains, got disrupted by COVID, everybody pivoted in Asia, and it was that speed of pivot, the digital adoption, the acceleration of the speed, and how everybody just came together and said, all right, between individual countries, between platforms, between governments, how can we work together to oil the wheels of commerce, whether for the consumer or for the corporate? So that was what, as I sit on the beach in Sentosa, I will contemplate.
Nice. And Roman, thank you for joining us from the US. While you're sitting on your back porch sipping whiskey, as I'm sure you'll be doing on the last day of this year, what will your reflections be on the US financial services sector?
Yeah, no, thanks for the conversation. Obviously not excited to be at home. Last 2 years I was in Singapore for the festival. Hopefully it'll be the same next year. It's been an extremely eventful year. But from the standpoint of financial services, we're embracing digital a lot more than we have before. Partly an opportunity, but partly out of the necessity. I think the financial system proved to be pretty sound, despite the situation that we all live in. And frankly, from the standpoint of BNY Mellon, our approach towards resiliency and innovation at once, and being open, is paying off.
That's great. And David, I don't know where you're going to be at the end of the year. Hopefully you can tell us. But what are you seeing in the payments world, and which of those trends and behaviors are you expecting to stay into 2021?
Well, I think that, first of all, thank you for having me. And like Roman, I hope that for the next edition, we will all be in Singapore together in person. Look, I think that when we reach the end of the year, we'll come to the realization that the unbelievable and unprecedented acceleration of trends that were already underway around digitalization of commerce, of payments, is just a fact, and that we just need to accept the fact that we've accelerated all of that by maybe 5 to 10 years. And that all of the infrastructure that needs to support all of this activity moving to the digital side is going to be required in order to enable everyone to participate in this new digital economy that is going to continue to grow at an exponential pace. So we're eager to play our role in this future, and I hope that when I'm reflecting on this year at the end of the year, I hope that we all join in concluding that this is the path forward for all of us.
I'd like to start with the role of big tech in finance, since I'm joined by Facebook and two bankers here today. There's been a lot of discussion throughout the event so far around collaboration, and it's similar themes that you're just raising now in financial services, and the idea of open platform strategies, moving away from closed or proprietary systems. So I'd like to ask each of you what you think your role is in that open ecosystem. And Roman, maybe to start with you, what's BNY's role in an open ecosystem for financial services?
Yeah, I think first of all, we're not a regular bank. I mean, we really provide infrastructure of financial services in the U.S. and globally. And, that role doesn't change. But I think, especially now, no single company, no matter how well-resourced they are, can build it all themselves. So we embraced an open approach. We work with partners. We even work with competitors. We work with large technology companies. We work with fintechs. And I really feel that in that collaboration, we present a lot more choice to ultimate consumer. We also present more choice to other financial services institutions. And we introduce much more resilience into the system. Somebody doesn't need to bet on specific solutions or a black box. They can really embrace choice throughout the value chain. Our job is to be an orchestrator for our key clients. I mean, we work with the largest asset managers, with the largest asset owners, sovereign funds, and for them, resiliency combined with choice, combined with flexibility and innovation, is the name of the game, and that's our mission.
So from a global financial orchestrator to a regional bank here in Singapore, what would you say the role of DBS is in open ecosystems?
Well, Rebecca, I often say that Development Bank of Singapore, which is what DBS stands for, if we do our job well as a digital Bank of Singapore, we should become the disappearing Bank of Singapore, where we disappear into our customers' ecosystems and platforms. And, long gone are the days where a bank is a financial physical supermarket, right? We now work within our customers' industries, on our customers' platforms, and this can be B2B trade platforms, it can be B2C consumer transaction platforms, merchant platforms, or it can be industry platforms, be it for logistics or health tech or med tech or agri-tech. But if you plug and play your financial services and disappear into the customer or the industry ecosystem, you offer straight-through account opening, you offer algorithmic-based lending, you offer engagement, fulfillment, and it's all sort of invisible but intuitive and data-driven, then you've done your job well. And so that's our go-to, is find the right partners, find the right partners with the right and common philosophy and mission, and give the customers what they need, but give it to them in the most seamless, painless, hopefully joyful, customer experience-driven journey.
Embedded finance definitely seems to be one of the buzzwords of this year. What's the role of Facebook in financial services, David?
Well, so we hope we can participate in a very open ecosystem, and I'm very glad that you used those terms, because we like to think about the infrastructure that we helped start, that we're not in control of anymore, DM, as an open ecosystem, and we think that we can help in a number of dimensions. We have about 3 billion people using our products every month, and about 200 million small businesses on the other side. And so we're hoping that we can help with financial inclusion already, now, I mean, it's still, believe it or not, almost in 2021, 1.7, probably more by the end of this year, 1.7 billion people who don't have access to a bank account or to the ability to move money in a digital form around the world. 1.5 billion people who are underserved. And so we hope that with the reach we have, we can participate in a very open way and in collaboration with banks and the existing financial services industry to bring more people online and serve them better. And I think a good analogy of this is really the way that the internet has helped people have access to unlimited telecommunications, and that happened because you had an open standard, an open protocol on top of which a number of companies could compete and build services, and we hope that our role can be the distribution and the service that we can bring to people and small businesses alike around the world in that open ecosystem that you described earlier.
So everyone's playing very nice on this panel because everyone is partners in this space, it seems. But Roman, what's the rationale for a firm that's 300 years old to work potentially with an organization like Facebook, a tech giant that's out there that is seen by some as a pariah?
Yeah, I actually think this situation presents a unique opportunity. I mean, as you said, we're almost 300 years old. Alexander Hamilton was the founder. And I think for us, what we are known for is trust, integrity, resilience. To get this reputation, it really takes a long time. But in many ways, maybe we haven't been known for innovation. But we, at the same time, really embracing that. And we're partnering with all sorts of companies, and obviously with companies kind of that we have here and here at the festival, to really drive this choice for the clients. I described the open ecosystem that we have, and we see ourselves as an orchestrator. So UBS or Facebook or anybody else can be part of the solution, to the extent the solution provides this resilience and innovation for the client. So we really find ourselves in a privileged position where trust and integrity playing a very big role, where the clients really rely on us for most critical financial infrastructure, and we use that position to really build the best solutions for them that combine what we provide with what our partners provide in a very seamless way.
I guess the flip for you, David, is as Facebook, where you're used to a much faster speed of operating, why do you need to work with a 300-year-old institution?
Well, I think that financial services is different than traditional, consumer technology products, right? And and one of the reasons for that is just the reality of the regulatory frameworks that you need to abide by, and the other are basically the rails that you need to interface with in order to serve consumers and businesses around the world. And so we think that organizations like BNY and others have not only the capabilities but also the experience and the know-how to do this very, very well. And we've definitely approached our role as entering the financial services as a very collaborative one that will seek to build more partnerships and to work in concert with a number of different participants in the ecosystems to build the product that we believe will help move the ball forward in terms of services and reaching people that weren't served before. So we're really going to depend on a number of existing banks and financial institutions to build those services going forward, and we intend to be good partners to the industry.
Shan?
Yeah. Well, I can add, I think, at least for businesses, small, medium-sized enterprises or even large corporates, they all need help. And when COVID hit, it dawned on us that so many micro SMEs were just not prepared. Take F&B, for example, food and beverage. They had the product, but they hadn't digitized their offering, and they sure as heck weren't getting digital payments, collections, all being plugged into the food supply chain. Now, banks can't do everything. But they could partner with people in the food supply chain. They could partner people who could digitize your menus and do a good job. They could partner with food riding companies, etc., to get the entire journey done, end to end. But it's putting it all together that is the pain point for our customers today. So if a bank who knows the customer well, understands the customer pain point, and goes through the journey bit by bit, and says, okay, I will link you end to end from the moment you have a customer come in through your digital platform to the moment you get paid and the food gets delivered, right? We will help you through that journey. Then I think you become a real partner, both a financial and an ecosystem partner. But you can't do it alone. You're one part of that ecosystem. And so whether it's in whatever industry, partnering with the big player, the player that knows the customer, has the solution, and is willing to partner with you, it's crucial.
You talked a lot about customers there and about SMEs. I think we should switch gears and talk about the digital infrastructure that's needed and more about financial inclusion, which you picked up on there, David. Libra and Calibra were launched to enable financial inclusion. That's a clear public message that's around the both organisations. But both have been rebranded this year. Does that mean the priorities have shifted?
So yes, we've been very successful at renaming things. Totally deserved. Look, I mean, it's not the priorities that have shifted. I think the priorities and the mission are 100% intact. I think, what has evolved, though, is that we collectively have listened to some of the constructive criticism and questions that we've received from regulators and key stakeholders around the world, and as a result, we've adapted our plans. And I think that the result of the way that we've adapted our plans in terms of how we execute that mission is, I think, a really world-class standard when it comes to compliance and AML for new infrastructures like blockchains. I think DM will definitely be the gold standard, and on our side, on the Novi side, on the wallet, we are taking this very seriously as well, with the same level of rigor and operational expertise that we have brought to bear, so that we can go into this, deliver on the mission without sacrificing anything on the compliance side and AML front. And I think that we can even move the ball forward in terms of efficacy of some of these programs in the current financial system by deploying new technologies and new capabilities, and we're very much looking forward to that. So, net, mission is intact, but we've taken in all of the feedback that we've received. The DM Association is now independent. It is led by Stuart Levy, whom I believe is also speaking at this event. And on our side, we're really focused on the wallet.
That's great. And I guess Facebook has been having a number of privacy issues at the moment. So why should regulators and consumers trust Facebook?
Well, I think, first of all, I don't think what we're asking for is just immediate trust. I think, what we're asking for is at least to have the benefit of the doubt. And I think the reason why we deserve the benefit of the doubt is that, if you look at the way that we've approached this mission and this ambitious vision that we have, is that, we could have built this completely internally in a closed way, right? We could have built a wallet on existing rails, and, as far as consumers go, they would have had a great experience, and we could have embedded all of this into WhatsApp and Messenger, and people would have been able to pay one another domestically and cross-border in a fairly seamless way. But we've decided to do the hard thing, which is to try to build a new standard, a protocol for money on the internet. And we understood early on that if we wanted this to be successful, we couldn't be in control of it. And so we built it in a way that relinquished all of our control. I mean, not all of our control, but, we're one out of, 26 members of the DM Association now, and we don't have, more decision-making power or any sort of other power into the DM Association, more than any others. And so this is so much harder to do than just to build a wallet on our platforms. And I think you'd be hard pressed to find any company that has done this in recent history of actually building something, investing a considerable amount of resources into it, and then saying, okay, we're going to relinquish our power here, and we're going to try to make it an as open ecosystem as it can be, and basically tie one or both hands in our backs when it comes to enabling competition on the very thing that we've created. And of course, we'll compete on top of the DM network with everyone else who will build competing services, but we'll do it fairly. And the fact that DM was started here will actually confer no specific advantage to our company. So I think all of those things that we've done, which has created all kinds of complications in the execution of this vision, is I think a good reason to give us the benefit of the doubt in terms of our intentions and what we plan to do here.
So then back to that core point around financial inclusion and infrastructure. For DBS, obviously, we're very fortunate here in Singapore to be in the studio today. But as a regional bank, what role do you have to play to help with the recovery in this region?
So I think twofold. The first is to reach out to the micro SMEs who don't have access to banking. And now with the full digital onboarding, with the full suite of digital products, especially for trade, for finance, and if they're already on a transaction platform, we could use alternative data to help make informed credit decisions, to give them a loan on the fly. It really is this sort of speed to market, the speed to opening account, the speed to a loan, and to help them. As I said, it's when you ask any SME or any corporate, what is your biggest problem today? A lot of them will say it's getting more sales, it's reaching out to more customers. And of course, they'll go to Facebook or they'll go to Google or any of these giant platforms. But when they do, they also need a financial partner. They need someone who can give them a QR code that is linked to the local transaction system. They need someone who understands how their own ecosystems work. They might need some help to move their goods, from one country to another. They might need documentary trade, a bank LC. And if you can digitize all that in a time where they can't get access to this normally, but with the digital solution they can, then I think you are helping a whole army of these micro SMEs to really get up to curve and to bring them onto the playing field. So it's adding value, it's helping them digitize, it's getting them plugged into your ecosystem where you partner with others to help them with their sales and their reconciliation. And it's also, in a way, to give them the feedback loop and the data they need. It could be that, hey, we know that, you're getting your supplies from X, but what about getting your supplies from Y? They're cheaper. Or, hey, we know a whole bunch of buyers who might be interested in your product. How do we, with customer consent, plug you into a new market, for example? So I think banks like BNY, ourselves, we have, well, in BNY's case, hundreds of years of data. We've got decades of data. We've got some of the best data on consumers, customers, buyers, and sellers. It's how we put them together to be relevant, contextual to our customers, to give them what they need at the right time, at the right place.
You take me on to my next point perfectly around leveling the playing field in terms of access to data. So all three of you sat around this virtual table have access to very different types of data. What would be your ask for 2021 in terms of, or a message out to the financial services industry around data? Roman, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our mission is to provide kind of financial infrastructure to the world. And the world is changing. And I think, there are more and more use cases that we need to think about. And at the same time, the amount of data in the world is increasing and increasing exponentially. So that's kind of where this open ecosystem comes in play. is to put all this data to create insights, for our clients and ultimately, ultimate consumers, but to do that in a highly secure way. So I think the regulators obviously have a big role to play. I think the financial service partners have a big role to play, but we also just take our role very seriously. As we embrace open ecosystem, we absolutely do not compromise any standards, and certainly we cannot at all question anybody's intention, kind of what to use with the data, right? So the data, it becomes a very important advantage for people. But at the same time, it could really result in a situation that people don't want. So we take this issue very seriously, and it's probably one of the most important things that we do. And when we talk about advances in technology like AI, some of them are really spent on use cases, but some of them are really spent on ensuring the data that they have is extremely well protected and deployed only in a most appropriate way.
Shan, what does it mean for you?
So I think it's important for us to have a level playing field on the use of data, both for the big technology companies and for financial players and banks. But for DBS, having spent years ingesting our data is not valuable unless you can create insights from it. And being able to ingest all those data, all that years of data into a data lake, and then use them, in creating models, creating AI models that are relevant to the customer, being able to experiment, creating a feedback loop. My wish is that we could get this feedback loop to work quicker, faster, sharper, and get our machine learning models to also pick up speed and accelerate and be as relevant as possible. We would love to get to n equals 1, right? But you got to start somewhere. You got to start at n equals 10,000, 1,000, whatever. So being able to get the feedback loop, get your machine learning platforms, use the public cloud in a safe manner, get the customer consent you need to create the ingested data into knowledge and insights that are applicable and purposeful and respectful to the end customer. I think that's the holy grail. And it's a journey. But my wish is that A, we have an equal playing field, B, we have safety around the protection and use of our data, and C, we can get to a point where the machines are just so intuitive and the preference engine works well and the customer is delighted. That's obviously my wish. We'll see whether we get there.
If we do have that level playing field in terms of access to data, how should the role of regulators, how should regulation change to adapt? David?
Well, I think, I don't know whether you're asking in general or specifically with regards to data, but I think, just more generally, I think that, what we've seen is an acceleration of conversations around what the proper regulatory frameworks for a number of new types of experiences and payments networks are going to be. So I think that, good, clear, fair regulation is always better than no regulation, because it's very good for all the participants in an ecosystem to understand what the rules of the road are. And I think that, this is one of the things that we've engaged and, the DM Association has engaged with, very, very widely in terms of engagement with regulators around the world around, how do you regulate, new networks like DM? How do you regulate stablecoins and new payments networks? And I think that, we've had very, very constructive and positive dialogue with a lot of back and forth in terms of input. And I think that, this is going to move the ball forward in terms of having clear rules of the road for the entire industry as we seek to push the boundaries of who has access to the financial networks today and who can benefit from those things. I think that, on the data points that you talked about earlier, I also think that as far as we're concerned, on the Novi side, we're going to make strong commitments to consumers around the world, and we're going to be very transparent about data and how we protect it. But I also think that in general, in the financial services space, I think, very good use of data that is available in a completely transparent manner can help actually bring online millions of people who currently don't have access to the financial system and can unlock capital for a number of people who don't have access to capital right now. So, used the right way, in a transparent manner, in a trustworthy way, it can really open the doors of the financial system for millions, hundreds of millions of people around the world as well.
Given this session is meant to look ahead to 2021, I'd like to finish by asking each of you, what do you think will be the biggest game changer in financial services for 2021? Just one trend or one technology perhaps that you want to pick on. And Roman, I'm looking at you first.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a unique combination of resiliency and innovation. Often people found the economy in that, a dilemma, right? Do I invest more in resiliency or do I innovate? I think your whole point on fintechs and established banks, startups and 300-year-olds, it's really been seen, do I make my bet on resilience or do I make my bet on innovation? And I really think that 2021 will be about combining both. Whether you do it yourself, which is much harder to do, or you do it with your partners in a way of platform businesses and open ecosystems, I think those that manage to master both will emerge to be the winners. We hope to be one of them.
And David, I'm not sure if yours will change in light of the Biden presidency, but what would you say is the biggest game changer for financial services in 2021?
Well, I hope that we get to participate with, Novi and DM and the big changes of 2021, pending regulatory approvals where we need to obtain them. But just generally speaking, I think that 21 is going to see an explosion of innovation in the spaces blockchain, decentralized finance, and programmable money. And I think that while 2021 is not going to be the year where you're going to see the full impact of all of these technologies coming together to serve more people and small businesses, I think that it's going to be absolutely, undoubtedly, a foundational year for the space that's going to take us to amazing places when it comes to improving the state of things, lowering barriers, lowering costs, and enabling use cases that couldn't be, weren't possible until recently. So I'm actually really, really excited for 2021, and I'm even more excited for 2022 when I think those things will actually scale. But in terms of seeing innovation in the financial services space, I think 21 is going to be a gold year for innovation in financial services.
Thank you, David. And bring us home in the studio, Shan.
So, Bill Gates once said famously that, humans don't need banks, they need banking. I think this whole unbundling of banking has started, that, financial services have become sort of microservices and they plug and play in ecosystems. So for me, for 2021, depends on how 5G and the Internet of Things take off. But I do think that one of the game changers would be the use of blockchain, more proliferation of the use of blockchain, especially in global trade, in logistics, in various businesses where the data from 5G and blockchain can help to make informed decisions, whether it's goods being transferred from country to country, whether it's trade being financed, etc., whether the supply chain has a shortage or the demand side has an issue. So I think all these informed decisions that comes out of the IoT and 5G innovation would be very exciting and a real game changer from 2021 onwards.
There we go, a positive note from all three of you to finish the panel with. Thank you so much for you guys joining us. Shan in the studio, David and Roman on the line. Safe flight, David, I know you're heading off shortly. And back to you, Manisha. Thank you.
Rebecca, thank you so much.
Yeah.
excellent to hear from you and the guests. And I was particularly taken with that conversation about data, actually, and what can be done with it, and the amount of collaboration and partnership that is still so necessary in the financial services system. Thanks again to all of you for those thought-provoking opinions.